take a look at this week's internet weather. The top 10 most probed ports for January 28th. At the top is 23 TCP, that's Telnet. 1433 is MSSQL, swapping places with 445, which is SMB. 8545 is up 4 spots, that's Ethereum. 22 TCP is SSH, 3389 is Remote Desktop Protocol. 81 TCP is an alternate web port. 80 ICMP is ping. 80 TCP is regular old HTTP. And 8080 TCP is another web port, but more often than not, it is used for proxying. Taking a look at the most sources probing, so this is the number of individual sources and not the volume. 445 is still at the top. In fact, pretty much everything hasn't moved that much except for one, which is very interesting. 445, we've talked about 23, 8080, 5431, 80 TCP, of course, 123 UDP, which is NTP. 80 ICMP is ping again, 5555 is Android Debug Bridge. 81 TCP is web, and 1433 is MS-SQL. So, the major item of note in this week's internet weather was the uptick in scanning on port 123 UDP, which is NTP. 123, some spike, really, quite a big spike, and I'm only showing 30 days here, but those 2 spikes are the biggest spikes in the last 365 days. And it's a small number of sources in Italy, Great Britain, and the US. And there's some weird things going on with the sources here. The source IPs appear to be, in some cases, non-routable RFC 1918 addresses. So, I mean, it looks like it's scanning, but there's some sort of shenanigans going on here.
Those network time servers have been exploited before in amplification attacks.
Yes,
absolutely.
They're part of, and I think that explains if they are non-routable IP addresses you're seeing, probably that's what is happening here.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting stuff, because like, anything that's UDP typically can be used for a reflective attack, but there is a special command called monlist, I think, in NTP that you can get a big bang for your buck in terms of amplification. Very small request, much bigger payload. I'd love to know what's going on there. I would love to think that it is research, but I can't be sure. 445 is pretty much the same as where we left it. I mean, it sort of wavers around 70 to 80,000 scan sources per hour.
This one seems to suggest a day of the week pattern.
I absolutely agree with you, yeah.
When we saw the internet weather, there was one chart that I particularly liked just because I could see the days of the week clearly in the data. They're infected and they just scan when they're on, and you turn them off and they stop scanning. So you have Monday through Friday, and then you have how many people are turning these machines on Saturday, and then even fewer turning them on Sunday. Right. But then you have your base that just keep their machines on all the time.
Right, exactly. And those most likely are servers. We saw a huge uptick in this a couple years ago with WannaCry. It has never really come down since then. So our theory is typically that this is WannaCry or similar bug related. 1433 has seen a bit of an interest in the last couple of months. You can see 60 days here, and these are the scanned sources. When you see a concerted increase like this, typically it's a single botnet that's doing all of it. It's not as high as it had been. I mean, it's peaked around 11,500 scan sources per hour. We're down towards maybe 10.5 these days. Scan flows in port 23 TCP Telnet. We've been following Telnet for forever. It really hasn't changed that much either in the last 60 days. There've been a couple of intermittent spikes, but still trucking. 55555 TCP, not to be confused with 5555 TCP.
One more 5, a fifth 5.
A fifth 5, correct. I was on the show last time and there was a spike in that. You can see that around the 13th. And I think it's looking for a specific remote code execution bug in Linksys, this tmblock.cgi that's been known for a while.
This seems to be trending upwards. I think that's one port of interest for me.
I don't know that it's present on that port, but the traffic that we've seen related to it seems to suggest that it thinks it is, or at least they continue to try and scan for it. So it's another one to keep an eye on if you happen to have this. So scan flows on port 27019 TCP. This actually did not make it to the top 10 or even the top 20, but we did see an alert from the baseline. And this is a 30-day view of those scan flows. And you can see a single source in Canada, single source in China for these, but someone is very interested in scanning these ports. The interesting thing about a MongoDB database is that it's a NoSQL database. And typically, you wouldn't expose it to the internet, but some people do. Sometimes people will misconfigure them, expose them directly to the internet, and put a whole bunch of valuable data in them. And in some database systems, and I'm not positive about MongoDB, but some of them have like a way to execute system commands as well, as long as you connect to the database.
Yeah, way back I remember a denial of service attack that was extremely effective. You basically just told the server, it was a database server, and you told it to run a complete diagnostic check on the system. And it stopped responding to all the users and whatever its purpose was. So you don't want that to be something you can run over the internet unauthenticated.
And that's the internet weather for this week.
Nice. A little snow coming down too.
Little snow too. That's just regular weather though. We don't call that internet weather.